So they try to say that he was gonna get out Lil Cam for 250K. But you can't do that because you cannot bond out the feds. It's impossible. And so if you really look at it closely, they actually got Lil Cam in there for a completely different reason. So he's not even in there for Takeoff right now. It's not even going to be until another 9 months until they actually bring him back in to start the whole thing about Takeoff. And look at it. They still have puzzles of the pieces that's scattered around that they still have to collect and be able to put together so that they can have a complete picture of the entire profile of exactly what happened that night with Takeoff, Amigos, Lil Cam, and everybody that was there at the MobTies party. Because you got to remember, at this bowling alley, they know, like, pretty much at this point, all 40 people who they are. They talked to most of them. A lot of people ain't wanting to say nothing. But there's a lot of people who you wouldn't have thought would say things that ended up saying a lot of things. And that's how they really found Lil Cam. Because you got to understand that they didn't want, all the other people didn't want to go down for it. Especially the people who was arguing and the people who was around there running and like has, things that they had said back and forth that kind of added to the whole escalation. Because they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So at the end of the day, somebody had to tell him where Lil Cam was, because they didn't just randomly see him walking around or something like that. He was probably, chilling and whatever, and somebody knew where he was chilling. They were like, hey, they didn't want to get in no trouble. And then the same thing gonna happen to Lil Cam, where he's not gonna want to have to go down for it too much. So what's gonna happen is that to lower his time, he's gonna probably end up singing. He's gonna end up singing and writing him a whole book report and basically pointing fingers at everybody, just like 6ix9ine or something like that. Because if you really look at Cam, he's kind of skinny and he won't really be able to like survive there being for that long if he has to do 200 years, just due to the fact that like he's gonna get pushed around. A lot of people are gonna not respect him due to the fact that it's Takeoff. Everybody likes Takeoff. Everyone knows that he was a real OG as it gets. And so for that reason, it's like once he's in there, they probably put him in PC. They probably did. And that's what a lot of people are saying. They said it's possible just because it's all high profile. And you got to understand, it's just like the Young Dolph situation, man. But like condolences to Takeoff and condolences to everybody because of the fact that the whole thing is that these dudes are going to be telling now. And it's like they should have never did anything. They should have never even went to that party. That should have never been a thing. At this point, why, having birthday parties and everything, and you like almost 40, it's just like, it's different, you shouldn't even be doing that, gathering all these people together like that. It's bad to mix crowds too. You don't mix crowds of millionaires with crowds of people who are doing dice games and like hanging in the streets all day and stuff like that. You don't mix Fifth Ward with people from Atlanta. You don't mix millionaires from the dudes in the hood just there, because of the fact that not everybody is thinking positive. Not everybody is thinking that, everything is cool. People gonna get jealous. Feelings gonna get hurt. You don't think the same. You don't walk the same. And so because of that, it's going to be feuds. It's going to be egos getting away. Everybody knows that, man. And so when they were down there, basically it was like a moment of time until somebody ticked off somebody else, until the feelings get in the way. Somebody was hurting for money and try to charge them. They try to basically run Quavo's pockets at the dice game. They try to charge him probably for the security. You never know, right? Because they technically supposed to check in, and that's supposed to be the security, right? And last time I checked, security is not free. So if you really look at the facts, the security is not free. That's the same argument that they's arguing over. The security is not free. The dice game is separate from the security fee. The money you lost in the dice game is separate from the fees for the security. It's two different type of bills that Quavo had to pay. He had to pay in the dice game, and they turned around and told him, you still owe for the security. Don't leave out of here without owing for the security. And so at the end of the day, they came and collected, and they left an open tab. And when you leave an open tab, you're going to incur charges and something's gonna happen, and that's what happened. You see, the way it worked out is that argument is somehow in some way goes back to probably money and issues around that, because if you look at it, it goes down two ways. Either they was arguing about a girl or it was about money. And so that's what the two things are. It's either that or like, unless it wasn't a situation where it wasn't no like war amongst them. It wasn't people dropping in both sides. That's not what happened. There was nobody dropping on both sides before this. So it wasn't that. It was over money, and because it wasn't over a girl. The whole Migos breaking up, now that was over a girl. So they already had a strike on that. And so Quavo is just basically checking the boxes of problems that he's trying to bring on. If you really look at it, Takeoff was trying to save the Migos from splitting up. He tried to save it. He said, why is Offset and Quavo arguing? Ain't we all family? And so they're arguing, and he comes to find out that it's over the girl. And then Cardi B steps into the situation. Now you got to look at it like they really was veering off into the wrong direction. I don't know if they fully understood how to level up like the way they're supposed to, because if you really look at all the people that got the success they did, they were able to level up. They had companies, like look at like people like Diddy and like Jay-Z. They be buying big companies and stuff, having liquor companies or buying buildings or something like that, right? And so did Quavo want to go into that type of direction? Because if he did, he would have not been hanging out in the Fifth Ward, having to check in Houston. You don't want to have to be 10 years in the game and have to be checking into places. Like, you got to understand that even with the success they had, Quavo was putting himself in a position where he didn't level up the way he really supposed to level up. When he had the opportunities he had, you're supposed to do the right thing, right? So what happened is that he stayed in his same old ways, and what that got him was nothing far, because 10 years in the game, all those millions, and he still had to go and check into a hood and have those guys be the one who decide what goes around him. They decide the outcome for him. And so it's like, why put your life in the hands of them when you're 10 years in the game, supposed to be in millions? You should be a made man by now. You shouldn't be having to check in nowhere. You shouldn't be having to answer to nobody. No juniors, no nothing. You see, when you was that far in it and you supposed to have all these millions, you can't be just going into places where you got to check in. Like, that's still how you get treated. It don't seem like you get the respect. It don't seem like you making millions if you still got to go and check into people who probably are, you supposed to be at a higher caliber. You had a better opportunity. And so that's where the issue comes in, is because if they would have been down the path where they were trying to get companies, start bigger businesses, and take the rap money and use that to actually do more things like businesses, real estate, all these things, money making, the things that actually is going to change your whole family situation. You feel me? So what happened is that that's not the direction they kind of went fully. So what happened is they stayed in the direction that they were going in before, and it led up to this. If they were moving a different type of way and thinking bigger and doing things bigger, then what would have happened is that they would have been, bigger business trips, not having to go to birthday parties and checking into the hood. They would have been doing like mansion parties elsewhere and all that. So what you got to understand is they would have been in a whole different game where they're meeting with other multi-millionaires and even billionaires and trying to do business deals so that they can launch their own type of things and products, and they can do it to where they set up their kids for even bigger and better goals and stuff like that, right? That's the way you're supposed to be doing it when you get an opportunity like that to get tens of millions, hundreds of millions. And then they screwed it up, and then they split up Migos all over a girl, and then kept going into that path, checking off more boxes of problems, and it ends up in an argument over some dice game, over security fees because you checked into the hood, and this and that at a birthday party, and just some basically just, and nothing that would have went in his positive direction anyway. So at the end of the day, you got to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment down below. Let me know if you're rocking with Migos, Takeoff, and I'm going to catch you on the next one.